Hello everyone, I'm Santanaka. Easy to meet you. Today I will introduce how to switch Python versions to avoid using the version specified by a project. Reinstalling Python every time a project specifies a different version can be inconvenient. There are also various other useful methods, so let me start with some explanations before diving into the practical steps. Thank you for your attention. The essential tool that allows you to switch Python versions is pyenv. Specifically on Windows, you should use pyenv-win, a version designed for Windows. Here, I will explain the convenience of using pyenv.
Thank you in advance.
Hello, Sumuji. Thank you for your support. First and foremost, as shown in the video, the ability to switch between multiple Python versions is extremely convenient.
Normally, when you install Python, you can only use one version of Python when you install it, so you can see how convenient it is.
Regarding the point that it doesn't affect the system Python, this means that the Python managed by pyenv is kept separate from the Python originally installed on the system. Since the Python versions managed by pyenv exist in a separate environment from the system-wide Python, using pyenv eliminates the risk of accidentally modifying the system Python. This diagram illustrates the concept of using pyenv.
I see, it's convenient for projects that depend on different Python versions since each folder can have a different version.
Exactly. This is precisely what I wanted to achieve. The next diagram illustrates this concept. For example, when the Python versions required for stable diffusion and data analytics differ, you can use pyenv in this way.
I don't think the swimsuit is relevant, but it's true that giving specific examples makes it easier to understand.
Alright, let's move on to the practical part. The process is simple. Just copy and paste the quick start commands from GitHub. But first, let's check the Python version installed on your system. Etens version 3.10, which is in either latest. The key point here is that even if your system ends Python is outdated, you can use pyenv to install a newer version. Oops, an error has occurred.
But it says the installation was successful.
Following the message, let's close the terminal and reopen it to see if the pyenv command is recognized. I've also restarted VS Code, so let's check the pyenv version. Unfortunately, it is still not working, so we'll input the commands from the video to resolve the issue. I noticed that the module shown in the video didn't load. This module is used for tasks like extracting zip files. I'm stumped. Even this did not solve the problem.
This is tricky. What should we do?
Well, why are we using VS Code now? But in PowerShell, the module in question is included by default in version 5.1 and later. So, if PowerShell is outdated, it needs to be upgraded. I think we are fine, but let's double check. I recently upgraded to the latest version, so that shouldn't be an issue. Next, I'll try manually importing the module. However, since this method also didn't work, I'll check the environment variables.
You're having quite a hard time with this, aren't you? These kinds of issues rarely go smoothly.
Yes, it almost never works perfectly the first time. I checked the environment variables, and it looks like something has been added. I am starting to get unsure about where the home directory is on Windows, so I'll check that. I've been working with so many different operating systems that my knowledge might be getting a bit mixed up. This is simply the home directory, and since I entered the commands here, there shouldn't be any mistake. Let me check what neds in the location that was added when I verified the environment variables earlier.
Oh, it seems there's nothing there. Could that be the problem?
If there is nothing in the folder, it looks like the installation completely failed. I will give up on the quick install and do a manual installation instead. The method is simple. If you create a clone from GitHub in the home directory, the files will be downloaded.
So, you mean we're going to place the files directly in this folder because there was nothing there?
Yes, exactly. We will manually place the pyenv-win files in the home directory. This time, the files will definitely be in this specified folder. As I mentioned earlier, this became clear when we checked the environment variables. Now that we have cloned the files directly from GitHub, let's check if the pyenv commands are working. We did it. It finally worked correctly, and I was able to display the version. Even on Ubuntu 24.04, when installing Stable Diffusion, a specific Python version was required. I used pym on Ubuntu as well. By the way, when checking the pyenv version in PowerShell, it looks like this. I couldn't solve the problem by asking the trending generative AI, so I had to figure it out myself. That is why learning is so important. Now, the real work begins. We will change the Python version in specific folders to manage projects more efficiently. Read an appropriate folder and move into that folder.
Being in that folder is crucial, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. Human memory can be vague, so it is important to remember this step clearly. The next command will display a list of available Python versions that can be installed. In this case, since the Python version is specified in the video I plan to release next time, we will install that version. It is installed. However, installation alone isn't enough. You need to enter a command to set the version. Finally, let's check the version. For those who have watched the video up to this point, I have some special information to share.
That's great. I'm looking forward to it.
First, let's check the pym version in the home directory. And if you add an S at the end, it looks like this. I will explain this in more detail later, but for now, you will enter this command in a specific folder. This folder is the project folder for Stable Diffusion. In other words, this image generation AI recommends Python version 3.206. So that is the version we have set. The commands pyenv version and pyenv versions are similar, which can cause some confusion. The former is used to check the Python version currently in use. For example, you can easily check which Python version is active in a specific project. The latter command is used to list all the Python versions managed by pyenv. By using this, you can easily see which Python versions are installed. To get familiar with it, it is good to remember the following points.
I see, this is very informative.
The key is to set the Python version you want to use system-wide by using pym global. That version will be used by default in any directory. For beginners, it is ideal to start with pym global and then gradually introduce more advanced commands like pym local. So that concludes our session on managing multiple Python versions. See you all next time. Goodbye.